The following podcast may contain adult language and an abundance of salt. So get ready, nerds, because we're going to introduce ourselves to all of our new subscribers. Welcome and thank you for listening to the Salty Nerd Podcast, and thank you all for subscribing. We've had a huge influx of subscribers in the last couple of days, and it is all due to the fantastic Mr. Mangold. Thank you, sir. We really do appreciate it.
We are huge fans of James Mangold.
I really am.
Huge fans.
I went through his IMDb, and I'm like, I like that. I like that. I like that. Damn, this guy's really fucking good.
Identity is one of my favorite John Cusack movies. We talked about reviewing
yes,
that. I think we still should. But
absolutely. I'm not going to snub the dude.
I'm a fan of the man's work.
Logan?
I'm not a fan of his Twitter account.
Oh, he's kind of a...
He did make Night and Day, though. So
I haven't seen that one.
I like that one.
Jude likes it?
Cameron Diaz? Yeah.
Well, anyway, all of our new subscribers, I would assume, have joined us because of the situation that happened over the weekend. So we're gonna put our side of the story out there and then introduce you guys to what we actually do on the Salty Nerd Podcast.
Yeah, let you know that we don't actually live in a basement.
Yep.
We do shower and groom.
So if you're here for basement dwellers who do not shower and groom, sorry, we will miss you.
and we don't clickbait or peddle hate.
No, yeah,
mobs.
Whoa.
That's the weird thing, because like
I do that a little bit. I control with the best of them, but I've been like being really polite lately, and I still get blocked by these kids. So
can't help it sometimes.
So
Vader does like to troll.
I do like to troll.
Well, speaking of Vader, why don't you introduce yourself to the over 700 new people?
Oh, hi, new 700 people. I'm the big dude at the end of the table.
And why are you the way that you are?
I know just how I am. I can't help myself.
You're an old school nerd.
I'm old school nerd. I'm old and grizzled and gray, and it's just how I am.
Can you crack a whip and punch Nazis like Indiana Jones?
No. I could probably crack a whip and cut my face like he did.
Oh, in the first, Last
movie.
Crusade?
Yeah.
You'd probably punch a camel like Arnold.
In fact, I did used to have, growing up on a ranch back in the day, back in the 70s, there was whips in the tack room at my mom's tack room.
Mm-hmm.
And there was one of those whips like that, and I was awful with it. Yeah. But this was pre-Indiana Jones, so I just thought it was cool to make it snap.
Yeah.
And,
So are you saying you're like the OG Indiana Jones?
No, not at all. Not at all.
Well, he is the OG barbarian space Viking.
Yes.
That's his title.
The podcast. Our fun little nickname for Vader over here is Barbarian Space Viking. He is basically a Klingon in human form. And Jude, our ambassador of estrogen.
Hello.
Introduce yourself to the new subs.
I'm Jude. I drank all that wine myself.
Yes, Corky is here. He has made an appearance. He's going to be in every single one of our podcasts from now on.
And I'd like to set the record straight.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think a few people have said like, oh, the corks are probably there because they drank that wine during the podcast. No. Those are my corks.
We do have several empty bottles of whiskey to show off, though.
Y'all drink the whiskey.
We drink the booze.
Yeah.
Jude is very mercenary with her wine. Every time she kills a bottle, she keeps the cork as a trophy.
Actually,
yeah.
Kadish doesn't drink anything but
you don't drink
water.
Yeah, you don't drink anything.
Diet Pepsi.
If I were drunk on this podcast, it would just be a shot of the wall.
He does enjoy a good Harvey Wallbanger every once in a while, though.
I do like but only from a real bartender.
Yeah.
So.
Only a few people are going to get that reference. I think Nick's in the channel. Nick, thank you so much for that poster. It's awesome. Harvey Wallbanger.
I'm going to go out today and get frames, Nick.
All right. So, Jude, I have a question about the corks, though. And I forgot what it was. Oh, geez.
Do you want to tell people why we don't have our vinyl brick background anymore?
Okay, that was a coincidence, guys.
Okay, well, why don't you?
Kadish, introduce yourself and explain to the new subs who you are.
My name is Matthew Kadish.
Guy that started it all.
I'm a former filmmaker, used to work in Hollywood, and I am also a published novelist. I'm the author of the Earthman Jack series and Lawman, Rook and Behringer, and a variety of other things. And I'm also the producer of the Salty Nerd Podcast, which means that I'm the one who does all the work. And these guys just show up.
That's right.
And get drunk.
I've been taking a little bit of the, shouldering some of that weight.
Drink his booze, eat his donuts,
and
abuse his woman.
And I am also the lucky man who is the fiance to Jude.
Oh, yes. The lovely couple.
I'm very proud of you right now.
Thank you.
Because he said fiance and not girlfriend.
It's an upgrade, huh?
I like to say betrothed.
Yeah.
Feels
It's a fancy word.
Yeah.
My promised. So I'm also a highly influential influencer in Hollywood. Everyone cares what I tweet about, and everyone here owes me a debt of gratitude.
It's like, you know what I see right now, or I have for the last like 48 hours, is Kadish's head swelling,
just getting bigger
like,
and bigger.
like,
getting worse.
like the drugged out episode on South Park with Mr. Garrison, or no, it was Mr. Drugs are bad. Okay, that guy floating around.
He's like he's like Colin Robinson.
Yeah.
In that episode where his head got really big and he lost.
Colin Robinson?
Yeah.
Who's that?
What We Do in the Shadows?
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, I gotcha.
He's super Colin Robinson.
Yeah, 100%.
And we're all laying on the ground like energy saps.
But you know what? It's okay because he does have a knack for triggering people, and I appreciate it immensely.
You guys all know how easy it is for me to piss people off.
It's so weird. Vader will say things that are so outrageous, and like you would think people get pissed off about it. Nobody pays attention.
I say the craziest stuff. I literally wake up some mornings and wonder if I've been banned from Twitter.
Yeah.
Never happens.
And then Kadish comes out here and says something completely benign, and everybody's like, blah!
It's like, oh, I hate bananas. Shit.
You know what the secret is?
What's that?
It's my profile picture.
Oh,
it makes me look important, and it makes me look like I know what I'm talking about.
Hashtag the Kadish.
Yeah, the Kadish.
I did it. No, it's the glass.
The glasses. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I looked for my glasses yesterday to make my profile picture like that. I couldn't find them. All right. Anyway, guys, I am Alex, the Salty Nerd. I created this podcast because I couldn't find fun movie entertainment on the internet anymore. Everybody was so over the top kiss assy, and like people were talking. I mean, it was like 2016, 2017 when I was kind of like thinking about starting a podcast. And everybody was obsessed with Trump. And I'm like, I just want to talk about movies, guys. I don't care about your politics. I don't care about all this nonsense. And I was like, if I can't find what I want out there, I'm going to make my own thing. So that's what I did. I went out.
So you found us?
Yeah, somehow. I went out there and I bought some cheap microphones, like literally for like $30 on Amazon. And I started this like cheesy little podcast. It was just me. And I would usually kind of rotate guests in. I would have family, friends, brother-in-law, stuff like that. And I found Kadish and Matt on Twitter one time, and we realized that we all lived in the same city of Las Vegas.
You're in Vegas?
Yeah.
No, you're in Vegas too?
I tweeted out I was going to the movie theater, and Kadish was like, hey, bro, are you going to the Galaxy Theaters in Vegas? And I'm like, yeah. He's like, we should hook up, dude. I live in Vegas too. And so it kind of just merged into that where I was at a point where I was not able to do the podcast alone anymore.
Yeah, and you were also like super shady about meeting up because you're like, I don't know if I want to meet Twitter people.
Yeah. Oh, dude, it's a weird thing. I was kind of like, I don't know if I'm supposed to do this. I've been taught since day one not to meet strangers on the internet.
So you go into the fandom menace pool and you find us.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I mean, honestly,
and then you break your gonna meet us pool or rule. And
I'm just breaking all the rules, man.
Well, it was funny because I remember when I got back on Twitter after like a long hiatus, I was tweeting about The Last Jedi, and Alex was like liking a lot of my tweets and retweeting my stuff. And I was like, oh, this guy seems cool. So I followed him. And then one day when he said, yeah, I'm going to go see this movie at Galaxy Theaters, I'm like, are you in Vegas? Because at the time, at the time, I'm like, I'm very lonely.
No, but we met up and it's been great ever since. Kadish has kind of taken this podcast to the next level for me. As the producer, he's like, I'm going to take on this. I'm going to buy all these new supplies for you. And we kind of like have been steadily upping our game.
Yeah. We tricked out the basement.
We tricked out the living room.
Yeah. So I just want to say that the new name for the Salty Nerd Studio is The Basement.
Okay.
That's what we refer to it
That's
as.
the basement.
The basement?
It is 2 steps lower.
It is technically.
Than the rest of the house.
For those of you who don't know.
We should put a basement dweller tier on the Patreon.
Oh, we're going to talk about the.
That's a great idea.
We're talking about the Patreon after we're done.
Yeah.
I had some ideas.
Okay, cool. Anyway, so we kind of been doing our thing. Basically, what my goal is to create an escape atmosphere for people who want to jump into the Salty Nerd podcast. We strictly talk about movies from all different genres and TV shows and stuff like that. We very rarely ever dive into politics. We very rarely ever talk about Twitter drama or anything like that.
And when we do, it's usually in relation to the movies we're talking about.
Yeah. And it's always lighthearted. We never take anything too seriously here. We're a bunch of goofballs who just want to talk about movies, and that's all we are. And we've been steady making our content week after week, and we've been growing very slowly. You know, we've had 500 subscribers for a while now. We were like, okay, cool. We need to get to that milestone, but
2, 3, 4 a week.
Yeah. And it wasn't a bad thing. And I was happy for what we had. But I was like, then this whole situation happened, which we'll kind of get into in a second, but like it just exploded. And
Yeah, it's nice.
we hit 2 major milestones within 2 days. And we were like, oh, okay, cool. Let's roll with this. Let's show people who we are.
You're like, oh, it's not enough.
We're good.
Are we good?
Yeah.
And they're like, no, dude, don't push the brakes. We need to piss off more people.
No, I don't like doing it. It stresses me out.
And Kadish is the guy on the podcast who likes to do all of the like research and behind the scenes and here's what was going on while things were being filmed and written and all of that stuff. So he's like our research guy. So the fact that he tweeted something based on his research of an upcoming movie is not surprising.
It was admittedly poor research because I got one major thing wrong.
You got one thing wrong.
God damn it!
Yeah, but you know what? Nobody else knew that either.
But the thing is like I didn't actually like if I meant to tweet like a legitimate news post, I would have like fact checked myself and like done some research. I was literally on my couch, kind of like halfway between consciousness, like falling asleep watching a movie.
Yeah.
I was like, you know what? I'm going to talk about this. and just like with Birds of Prey, because this isn't the first time a tweet of mine has gone viral. Like I didn't think anything of it. I was like, this is just my hot take on an Indiana Jones movie.
And nobody like added
Yeah.
anyone.
We didn't tag anybody.
No.
Nothing. I didn't even know
It
about
was
it.
just a thought Kadish had about a movie.
Which is why I'm telling you guys, I'm a very influential
Yeah.
mover and shaker
So,
in the Hollywoods.
So Kadish, since we're on the subject, go ahead and take it away. Give us your side of the events of Sunday, and then when I'll pop in with my one thing that I said that got completely demolished.
Picture it, June 2021. Kadish is laying on a couch.
Yeah.
So it actually started on Saturday when I made the tweet. And what had happened was there were a lot of kind of set photos that were leaked from Indiana Jones 5. And they were all pictures of Harrison Ford looking very aged. And I'm a big Harrison Ford fan. I love the guy as an actor. But I can remember when I went and saw, or when I imagined I went and saw Indiana Jones 4, this mythical movie that's rumored to exist. He was like 65, I think, when he made that. And even then, like he was pushing credibility for what he was doing in that movie as an action star. Now, watching or seeing these behind the scene photos, like he's 78 years old. That's a fact. I'm not being ageist by saying his age.
No.
And he did not look very dynamic or action starry. Like he looked like an old man who was being abused by being forced to make these action movies. And so like I just tweeted, I was like, for anyone who is excited and thinks that this movie is going to be good, let me just point out.
God damn it, Vader.
We can't have nice things.
This is why we can't do the show live. Go ahead, Kadish.
I saw him trying to set that up.
I know.
I was just shaking my head.
Me and Jude were watching Vader try to prop his phone up on a glass, going, "That's not going to work. That's not going to work."
Matt, please carry on.
Fucking idiot.
All right. So getting back to me, the important one.
Ego pop.
So I listed 4 things that I knew about Indiana Jones 5 that worried me. The first one is that Steven Spielberg is not directing the movie. And I'm a huge Steven Spielberg fan.
You are.
I've been a fan of his since I was a kid. I think he's one of the greatest filmmakers to ever live. And there has never been an Indiana Jones movie that he has not directed. Now, you can say that Kingdom of the Crystal Skull was bad and he directed that. And Steven Spielberg hasn't always made good movies. Like he has made some stinkers. But everyone goes through that. And to me, Steven Spielberg and his creativity and his vision is so entwined with what makes the magic that Indiana Jones has, that to see him, because he was involved in this at a certain point, and then he decided to step away. And to me, that's a red flag. So this being the first Indiana Jones movie without Steven Spielberg involved, or with George Lucas for that matter, that is worrisome to me.
Yeah, and if I can just step in real quick, for me personally, like looking at this from just the nerd's perspective, I remember the interview that Harrison Ford had where one day, somebody was asking him about Indiana Jones 5 or 4, whatever it was a while ago, and he was like, "Look, unless George Lucas, Steven Spielberg, and myself all sign off on this movie, it's not going to happen because there's not an Indiana Jones movie without the 3 of us together." That was like the big, and I held on to that with like a little amber of hope. Like, they're not going to sell out Indiana Jones. They're not going to do anything without the core 3 elements. And yes, Kingdom of the Crystal Skull was a bit goofy. They kind of misfired on that one, but I didn't care. I still want to see those 3 come back together and make, if they're going to make a new one, have them be involved. And that was kind of my thing.
I don't know what movie that is.
That invisible movie that never happened.
And I just want to point out that like gushing about one director does not mean that we hate any other directors.
Yeah, no.
I feel like I have to be like super like covering my tracks as we're talking about things, because things that we've said have gotten really misconstrued.
For sure.
Well, you know, in my head, this whole thing has put Mangold up there at Rian Johnson level of stupidity.
He kind of went off for a long time.
He just went right out of the playbook.
So take it from there, Kadish. What happened when Mangold responded to you?
Well, let me get back to this, but we're going to bring Odin from Odin's movie blog in, because he has some good stuff, and then I'll talk about my tweet and what happened with Mangold.
There you go, Odin. I just sent you an invite. You should be able to pop in here.
So while we're waiting for Odin, the second thing I said is that Kathleen Kennedy is producing this movie, and if you've looked at her track record since she came into control of Lucasfilm, she has not done well. Like, she's pretty much driven Star Wars into the ground. And so there's a lot of worry on my part that she's going to ruin this Indiana Jones franchise. Now, she has been producing Indiana Jones movies since, they started. But one thing I want to point out to people who may not be aware of what exactly a producer does, because Kathleen Kennedy, 90% of her career was attached to Steven Spielberg. And Steven Spielberg was the one who made these amazing movies because of his creativity and because of his storytelling ability and filmic knowledge and stuff like that. All of her successes were Steven Spielberg's successes that she just hitched her wagon to. And when she was working with Steven Spielberg, she was not a creative producer. She did not have creative input into the movies. And if she did, it was very limited because it was always Steven's vision. Her job was a logistical producer. So if Steven Spielberg wanted something, it was her job to bring it into reality. So if he's like, I want a 30-foot boulder to roll down this hill. Her job was to make sure that the boulder got made, to scout out where the hill was going to be, and then make sure that the boulder rolled down the hill.
That was 30 feet wide.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, like she came from the logistical end of producing. And when she got promoted to the head of Lucasfilm, she got into the creative side, and she's proven to be a huge failure on the creative end. And so this idea of resurrecting Indiana Jones, it feels like, she wanted to do an Indiana Jones 5 because she needed a win. And this is basically something that Steven Spielberg did agree to as a favor to her, as opposed to him actually wanting to do it, which I think is evidenced by him stepping down. So that was my second thing. But before we get to my third thing, let's welcome my good friend, Odin from Odin's movie blog.
What's up, Odin? How you doing, buddy?
Greetings, All Father.
What's going on? Yeah, this is brand new technology to me.
Yeah, this is something we're trying to test out a little bit today. We're doing something a little different. You guys are getting the raw, unedited audio from us.
Well, it sounds pretty great so far. So
I appreciate that.
Y'all doing a great job.
Thank you. So, how's your weekend been? Ours has been a little busy. What do you think about? What do you think about the last couple of days, man?
Oh man, it's been hilarious watching it all unfold. But yeah, to correct one of Matthew's points, didn't he claim that Steven's been helping him write this movie from the beginning or something?
I believe that Mangold said that Steven's been in his corner and has been advising him. Not just on the writing, but also on, the production. So I got the sense that they were just collaborating. And Steven Spielberg has a long history of doing that because, he's been a producer on many different movies. He shadow directed a number of films that he's produced.
Yeah. And a movie that I know a lot about is Jurassic World with Colin Trevorrow. Colin has said similar things about Steven. Like, Steven's not directing this movie, but he's there anytime I need him. And I know there's been several interviews where he's like, yeah, I had a question about what Steven thought would do or what he would do versus what I thought I was going to do. And Colin ultimately went with what Steven was going to do as far as, I think, an animatronic dinosaur versus a CGI or something like that.
It makes sense that, Steven's got his fingers in the pie a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. So it's kind of hard to say, especially if we don't know for sure what Steven Spielberg is doing with Indy 5. I'd hope he was involved heavily, but there's nothing to suggest whether or not that's true. So
If we were actual journalists, we probably would have.
Yeah.
That's
found
another
it out,
thing
though.
that we never claim to be journalists. We don't even make news stories on our YouTube channel. So we kind of got lumped in with a different crowd, and we're like, but we don't do that.
Yeah.
You're just a news site, though.
Yeah.
Remember?
Yeah.
You're just a news site, just trying to get clicks and tagging him for no reason whatsoever. So,
Yeah, you know, it's funny. Like, just look at my original tweet that he responded to. Didn't tag anyone. Didn't link to anything. I had a GIF of Justin Timberlake, and that was it.
That was like the weirdest thing the whole time. I'm like, all these sites are highlighting this thing.
It's got Justin
and it's just the Timberlake meme.
I'm surprised that Justin didn't jump into that
I
conversation.
know, he's probably pissed off at you too.
Brought it to a
Kish.
whole new level.
Damn it, man. Why'd you have to use my face?
Katie, you need to like be more creative with your GIF usage.
Oh my
okay?
God, what if Justin Timberlake is in Indy 5?
What if he plays Mutt?
What if Justin Timberlake is the one who linked Mangold?
Yeah.
Tweet.
Hey, bro.
Take these motherfuckers, Jack.
How dare you use my face?
But so like the third thing I said was that Harrison Ford is 78 years old, which is a fact.
Yeah.
And I didn't expound on it any more than that. I said he is 78 years old.
That's ageist.
And then the fourth thing I said, which I later found was incorrect, is that it was written by Jonathan Kasdan, who also wrote Solo, a Star Wars story. And it turns out Jonathan Kasdan, last time I was informed about Indy 5, he was working on the script, but I guess they fired him, and James Mangold is the one who's writing it now. Now, when I made this tweet on Saturday, I did not know James Mangold was involved in this movie. In fact, I didn't even know who he was. So it was not, I didn't mean to insult him. I didn't mean to rag on him. Nothing in my tweet was meant to insult anyone or attack anyone. It was not an attacking tweet. I just said like, hey, there are these pictures out there that people are getting excited over. You might want to take these things into consideration if you're getting excited about this movie, because these are huge red flags. Now, I didn't say anything about the story because I don't know anything about the story. I just listed those 4 things. And the next morning I wake up, and as I do, I check my phone to make sure that overnight I didn't get any like emergency texts from people being like, hey, I need you to bail me out of jail or something like that.
That you would have missed.
Yeah.
Does that happen a lot?
It kind of does. Yeah. It's Vegas, man. So anyway, so I check my phone, and I've got like 1 billion notifications on Twitter, and I'm like, what the hell's going on here? And so like I start checking, I'm scrolling through, and I'm like, the last time this happened was Birds of Prey, when I did a Birds of Prey tweet and a blue check mark commented on it, and all of her followers just descended upon me. And so sure enough, I found a blue check mark, and when I looked at it, I was like, that name sounds familiar.
Yeah.
And so I Googled the name, and I was like, that's the director of Indiana Jones 5.
Holy crap.
Yeah. And so what happened was, the best that I can gather, according to him, now we haven't been able to prove any of this because he hasn't provided us with any details, but he said that my tweet was featured on a news site, that someone linked to him, and he thought that I was a journalist who was using clickbait and misinformation to get people to the site to make ad revenue. And he took that as an insult, and so he wanted to set the record straight. And so he came out at me swinging. And he basically, in his very first sentence, said, "Hi, Matt," and then called me a basement dweller.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's trying to be all confrontational and stuff.
Well, I mean, like I'm the ridiculous, naive, nice guy. And I'm like, well, you get those clickbait sites. They do exist. They do get kind of annoying sometimes when they're just putting nonsense out there that is not true or has very thin reliability. So I kind of get it, but he really did not check. Because Kate is,
he came out swinging immediately
He was
to the point where I think a couple of us thought, like, is he joking?
Well, okay.
Like, it was so aggressive. We were like, oh.
And your information wasn't terrible either. Your information wasn't terrible either, because I'm at the Indiana Jones wiki right now, and it says it wasn't until March 30th of last year that Kasdan, not even in a direct tweet, but in a reply to somebody, said that he was no longer attached and his work on the project was finished. which indicates that he did have some role to play in the writing of the script.
Yeah, and he's listed on IMDb as one of the screenwriters. So I just naturally assumed that he was still on the project.
You can't believe everything that you read.
Yeah,
I guess
Kate,
IMDb is trash.
your sources were not very good.
My sources
You
were
should have
terrible.
gone directly to Twitter to check your sources.
Yeah, and asked John or Kasdan, right? Okay, so do you want to keep going, or can I get into it? Because my tweet was I was super jokey about this guy.
Well, so I will say this. So basically, the writer and director of Indiana Jones 5 mistook me for an actual journalist, which I don't claim to be in my bio.
Your head's getting bigger.
I don't say anything.
I'm often mistaken as a journalist, just so you know.
He never was able to link me to the site that he said that he initially saw my tweet on. No. And I never tagged him in my tweet, and I never linked to anything in my tweet.
Yeah. So basically, you did not bait this guy.
I didn't bait him, and the entire time he kept calling me a journalist and saying that I was clickbaiting and spreading fake news and stuff like that. I was like, can you show me where I'm clickbaiting and what I'm linking to and what I'm trying to make money off of? Because I didn't have anything. And if anyone goes through all my responses in that tweet thread, they'll see that I was very respectful to the guy because I respect him as an artist, not as a person, but as an artist. Funny enough, a lot of the most talented people in Hollywood that I've met are the biggest jerks. So it's not surprising that Mangold's a huge jerk.
You were exceedingly polite.
You called him sir in almost every single tweet.
Polite. Yes.
Well, I want to have a good Indiana Jones movie.
Yeah, we all do.
And if James Mangold can deliver a good Indiana Jones movie, no one will be more happy about that than I am.
I mean, we're all still going to go see it.
Your brown nosing was disgusting.
I'm genuinely hoping that he delivers.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So regardless, he was misconstruing everything I said. And then his army of fans came in and started misconstruing everything I said because they were going off of what he was saying, which was factually inaccurate, whereas the stuff I was saying was not factually inaccurate. Except for maybe the Jonathan Kasdan thing.
So later on, he was talking about a vendor trying to sell clicks because you have a show, quote unquote show. And I'm like, is he talking about our podcast?
Yep.
I'm like, we don't do news, man. Everybody's like, oh, you guys are just a bunch of hateful clickbaiters. And I'm like, we actively don't do that.
We are 100% an opinion show about old shitty movies
from the 80s. But he took a shot at us, called us basement dwellers, and
I think at one point when he was replying, it seemed like he was replying to you and other people as though he were still talking to Matt.
He was in everybody's mentions.
Yeah, but it seemed like he thought he was still talking to Matt because he was like, this guy said this, and then he sent me a picture, and I was like, that wasn't Matt. That was
me. Yeah, so I got tagged by a couple of people. I think YetiCast tagged me, and Andre, who's another podcaster.
Yeti told him where to find us.
Yeah, Yeti's like, hey, you can find their podcast right here.
Thanks a lot, man.
And I saw this, and I saw his reply to Matt, and I'm like, that's kind of funny. And I'm super sarcastic on Twitter. Every tweet that I have, if I'm responding to somebody, it's almost 100% sarcasm.
The funny thing about you, though, is your tweets don't come off as sarcasm. So that's why people hate you.
Yeah.
I was just like, hey, man.
Someone named the salty nerd.
Yeah. I'm
it doesn't give it away right away.
Which in and of itself was a sarcastic creation.
Yeah.
Do you want to tell the Ryan Johnson story?
Oh yeah, sure. So okay, so I guess my history kind of goes back with Lucasfilm a ways.
Snarky bastard.
So back when The Last Jedi came out, and I kind of saw the fans kind of turned on the movie, and I was like, okay, it makes sense. Okay, I'm not crazy. That movie sucked, right? Mm-hmm. Everybody on the same page? Yeah, okay, cool. So I kind of jumped into the Twitter fray at that point, and I wasn't sure where I was going to take the podcast. I wasn't really in any kind of set direction. And I saw, I think it was Pablo Hidalgo, who had me grouped in with the likes of, I think Odin, I think you may have been in there. Geeks and Gamers was definitely in there. Yeah. There was a ton of content creators on this page. And there's my little name with my 45 followers, the salty nerd. And Pablo Hidalgo's like, this is a bunch of salty, toxic nerds. Stay away from these accounts. And I was like, hey, bro, what did I do?
Yeah.
So I kind of I took that name, the salty nerd. I'm like, I'm going to take that and I'm going to turn it into something different. I'm going to turn it into, yes, I can be sarcastic, I can be snarky, but I still love movies. And I am still more than willing to give anybody and everybody a shot at to prove themselves, to make really cool, fun content. That was my whole goal. I'm like, I'm going to talk about movies. I'm not going to dive into drama. I'm not going to dive into politics. I'm going to be strictly talking about the creation of movies and having fun doing it.
And I just want to say that Alex is aggravatingly neutral when it comes to this.
God.
Like anytime I try to be like,
integrity.
yeah, anytime I'm like, we need to do this to build the channel or we need to do this to market ourselves, he's just like, no, dude.
No,
I got too much integrity to do that.
I'm a very principled person.
This is an ongoing argument almost weekly.
Yeah, I'm the total sellout. Alex is the one who stands up for, you know.
We had like a 3-week debate about how we were going to make thumbnails for YouTube because I didn't want to come off like a clickbait website. I'm like, don't do this. We're not allowed to put question marks at the end of shit because I don't want to trick people. Like
hey, at least you don't oversaturate your thumbnails like I do. When you talk about
I'm like
bad thumbnails, I'm the king of bad thumbnails.
Like no arrows, no random arrows pointing at shit. None of that.
I can always tell which thumbnails are yours though.
Yeah.
So
this is true. At least it's a distinguishing mark. But no, going back to what you were saying, you should have gone Taxi Driver on him, man. You should have been like, you talking to me?
Yeah.
That's
talking to me.
That's what we tell him, and he will not ever do it.
No,
it's
no.
really
And-
annoying.
I mean, we had an argument about whether or not we were going to address it in this video that we're doing
Yeah,
right now.
yeah.
We had to sit down and be like, here's what we're not going to do.
Because
Yeah.
I like
And we were really split over it because
Like-
we didn't want people to think that we were trying to capitalize on this. But now that there's so much misinformation out there, we were like, maybe we should defend ourselves. and
Katie
set the
and I
record
are like,
straight.
Katie and I are like, capitalize.
yeah. These
We
guys
need another 1,000 subs.
clickbait the shit out of this stuff.
You know what? Okay, first of all, I hate it when you two agree on things.
Yeah, Kadish and Matt are like the Wolf of Wall Street guys, like biting the microphone, like sell that shit.
Dude, I haven't talked about it yet, but we're gonna make a Corky T-shirt.
Oh, 100%.
Okay.
But my side, I'm like, look, guys, we have a brand. My brand is fun, escapism, movies from the 80s and 90s that we love, movies that are terrible that we still love because they're terrible. Like, I want to maintain the brand. I don't want to muddy the water with like going in a different direction with all the other YouTubers that are way better at it than we are.
Yeah, we are strictly an entertainment show. Like,
Yeah.
we don't do like
rant.
news or anything
We
like
don't
that.
gossip. Well,
Yeah.
I guess.
No, we
do.
do.
We gossip?
A little
Oh,
bit.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Little bit. I mean, like we have done news segments before because we flirted with that type of thing. But for the most part, our main shows are review shows. And since the inception of taking this show as a serious endeavor, as something that we want to do professionally, we've kind of focused on evergreen content and talking about, you know, movies in a way like kind of like how like Tim Pool talks about news. We want to be the Tim Pool of movie review shows because this is actually more of a talk show and comedy show than it is like, you know, movie news or rants or
It's just our
whatever.
opinions. Even our
Just
rating
don't
system
fence
doesn't
it on
matter.
those opinions.
It's like I was telling somebody on Twitter yesterday, I think, that this show is, to me personally, it's my therapy. I get together with my friends once a week. I have a couple drinks. We talk about movies we love or hate if Jude picks them. And
Usually, that's fair.
you know, and that's what we do.
Yeah.
You know, and I love these guys.
And that was my goal from the beginning.
And these three people at the table with me are my new best friends. You know, Vegas is a hard place to make friends, and finding you guys kind of saved me mentally. And this show is just a bonus. It's so much fun to do.
So
and I love it.
I want to talk about the part where Alex got involved in this drama. So being Alex and seeing that the writer and director of Indiana Jones 5
It's coming for you.
is just like interacting with me. He hops in and he does a tweet. You want to tell him about
Yeah,
that?
sure. So I saw him take a dig at us, and honestly, I didn't take it that seriously. I was like, okay, we're the basement, quote unquote, basement dweller nerds making some goofy show. And I'm like, okay,
Let's crack some jokes and
how
see if
could-
I can
yeah.
change his mind.
I want to try and change his mind about us. That's my
Yeah, and in fact, I think your first tweet to him was to come on the show and talk about.
I'm like, hey, bro, like, we would love to have you on so you can kind of set us at ease, like kind of alleviate some of that stress we have about this movie. And I tagged a picture of us. We all took a picture a while ago. This is an old picture of us standing next to the Batman statue that we have. And I love this freaking thing. It's so fun.
And honestly, we didn't buy it to put in the studio. It was just something Matt
Yeah.
already had because we're nerds.
Yeah, I've owned that Batman statue since 2006.
Yeah.
I remember the first time I came in his house and I go, dude, you gotta
Batman statue. I'm like, that's badass.
That's really cool. It was like part of his dining room decoration.
Yeah, and I'm like,
we use it as our Christmas tree sometimes.
Yeah.
I decorate them every year for Christmas.
I love them. I love that thing. And I love the fact that we have them in the studio, quote unquote studio, in our basement. And I just took a picture of it because I'm proud of it. And I'm proud of this podcast. And I was like, hey, man, I know you're taking a dig at us. And I kind of thought like maybe he's misinformed. He's taking a shot at Kadish. Maybe, you know, I'm trying to give the guy the benefit of the doubt. I'm like, look, man, we don't have basements, but we do have a kick-ass studio with a Batman statue, like 2 thumbs up.
I know you were trying to make him
I
laugh.
was trying to make him laugh. And the dude was like, fuck your studio.
You know,
and then he came for me.
Well, it just shows James Mangold. He's such a good director that he has such attention to detail that he was able to spot like that jar of corks, like far in the back. Like when he was talking about jar of corks, I'm like, what is he talking
Dude,
about?
I think I texted you guys. I'm like, did he zoom in on our picture? Like, how did he even see that? But he took a couple shots. I mean, yes, our studio is discount. We are not monetized. As of the time making this video and as the time that I made that tweet, we are not monetized on YouTube. We had like 700 subscribers the day I did that tweet. We have
five patrons,
a shoestring budget. Yeah, 5 patrons, or we're all close friends of ours now. Yeah. And I'm like, we were kind of just, I mean, that freaking brick wall was like, what, $30 or something? And I did it because I wanted to cover up your window area behind us. I'm like, well, we need something.
No, you did it because you like Joe Rogan.
Joe Rogan's podcast.
All right, let's be real.
Yeah. I'm like, I want to look like the Joe Rogan of movie reviews.
Right.
It did not look like that.
So, which is why you said to take it down before any of this happened.
So last week, Alex had asked me the day that we recorded a week prior to
Star Trek
making this video. Alex was like, hey, can you take that down this week? It really doesn't look good. And I was like, yeah, sure, no problem. I'll take it down before we record. And then all of this happened, and I was like, do I need to put it back up for spite? What are we doing?
It's a spite wall now.
I might need to put it back up, but yeah, it was a complete coincidence.
You can do it yourself. I had to get a ladder out. I'm very short.
Yeah, James Mangold basically said, like, nice studio, bro. Like great vinyl brick background
and they're not
jar
even
of
vinyl.
corks.
They're paper. They're worse than vinyl, sweetheart. We can't even afford vinyl.
and he was like, nice bounce light and stuff like that. So like his response was very snarky. And you know, I have a very thick skin because I'm a creative. You know, I was in the film industry and I write novels. And so, like, I'm not saying this to toot my own horn. I'm illustrating my point, which is like I've had to develop a thick skin when it comes to like criticism and people coming after me. And so, like, when James Mangold called me a basement dweller and stuff like that, it didn't really bother me. But when he commented on our studio, I did get upset. And it was because his attacks no longer were directed at me. It was directed at my fiance and my 2 best friends. And I want to give people an idea of what this studio is. Okay. So like we've been doing this podcast since late 2019 but we decided to start doing it in a professional way, in a way that we were taking it seriously at the beginning of 2020 when all the lockdown shit happened. And we were like, hey, you know, like we all hate our jobs. we want to do something that we love, and we would like to make money doing it. And so we started treating the podcast like a business, and we were like, we're going to grow on the audio end first, and then we're going to move into the video end. And we made a decision to invest into this podcast. And so I had, you know, a room in my house that I wasn't using all that much, and I decided to invest upwards of $5,000-$6,000 in equipment and furniture and stuff like that. And, you know, all told, I think I've probably sunk about $7,000 into the studio.
Which is not a lot to a multi-million-dollar director, but it's a lot for us.
Oh, it's a ton. Yeah.
Yeah. And you know, like we weren't making any money off the podcast. There was no guarantee that we were going to make any money off the podcast. But I decided to buy this table. I decided to buy a Rodecaster and a laptop and cameras and lights and a TV monitor and all this stuff, like soundproofing, like these black things behind us. This isn't decoration. This is to keep, you know,
the echo down.
The sound doesn't.
The leaf blower outside, muffled.
Yeah. This is so that our stuff sounds good to you guys. And we've always been trying to make this like a professional production. And so, and plus this is in my home. And so like we have like our dining room, like or you know, our kitchen right there and stuff like that. And so when Mangold came after our studio, it kind of hurt a little because I was like, yeah, you know, you're a multi-millionaire who is used to having like $100 million sets built, numerous, you know, departments doing everything that you tell them to. I, out of pocket, working guy here.
Yeah, you did most of this yourself.
Bought all this equipment so that me and my friends had an outlet with which to share our thoughts and opinions on. And I felt like it was a very odd punch down from a guy who literally has millions of dollars. He could pay for this setup 1,000,000 times over. And it just reminded me of the Hollywood elitism that I was constantly exposed to back when I worked in that industry. Because a lot of these guys, like I said, like a lot of the biggest jerks in Hollywood, they're either the biggest villains in terms of sociopaths, or they're the most talented people that you'll ever meet. And so it's not surprising to me that he's like a complete jerk, but it is surprising to me that he would come out so publicly and do such a hard punch down on a group of people who are just doing a hobby that they love. Like, we're all working people. Like we all have day jobs.
I got 3 kids and a day job.
That's why we come together on Tuesdays of all day.
Yeah.
Because it's the only day of the week we can all get together.
And even though he took a shot at the studio, I was still kind of laughing at it. I'm like, holy shit, this guy just took a shot at our goofy little studio.
Yeah, and I think we were all kind of waiting for him to realize he was being mean. And
no,
it didn't happen.
So I quote tweeted him because I was genuinely laughing when he made fun of my brick background because I hated it too at that point. I was like, yeah, you're right, bro. So I quote tweeted him. I started a couple of laughing emojis and I was like, God damn, dude, that was a hard shot. I'm like, okay, I'll take it on the chin. Fine, whatever. I'm like, look, dude, I was just trying to get to the guy on a personal level. I'm like, look, man, you have to understand, lifelong fans of Indy, especially after Indiana Jones 4, which doesn't exist.
Thank you.
We're a little skeptical. We're going to be a little hard to convince. You have to be better about interacting with people on Twitter about this because you're going to get a lot lot people are going to be like, I don't know if this is a good idea, bro.
He did not like that.
No, he didn't like that at all.
And what was weird is like, so he was spurting out for about 12 hours, responding to people constantly. And he was going off on all types of tangents. He went off on some political tangents every once in a while.
Well, his TBS showed hard.
Yeah.
I didn't see that. I think he deleted those tweets, didn't he?
He did end up deleting those. But it's also funny because later on in the day, he switched his strategy where he was still being like really condescending, but he was like trying to be like nice about it.
Yeah.
Which was weird. Like he was like, oh yeah, please tell me as a fan what you want to see. But like, if you really looked at his tweet, he's like, oh yeah, please tell me as a fan, whatever that means.
Yeah. Oh, he
tell
went
me
on.
What you want to see.
He dropped a bunch of F-bombs and stuff.
What really made me mad about the whole thing, and it was down a little bit on the thread, was when he went after Matt. Please show me your resume.
Oh, give me your credentials. Yeah.
Give me your credentials so we can talk on an equal level. That was where I got mad at this dude.
Yeah.
It's because that wasn't cool, man. I mean, there are so many people in Hollywood that have gone there and tried to make a success of their life that aren't there anymore. He's like the 1%.
Yeah, 1% that made it. Yeah.
I was like, this guy's made multiple multi-million-dollar AAA movies.
Really good movies.
He's like up there with Taika Waititi, Spielberg. I'm really, the levels there all over the place. But it's just,
yeah, he's in the upper echelon of Hollywood.
Yeah, and that's very few people.
And it's funny when I responded to that because I knew he was baiting me.
Yeah.
But I said like hey, I'm not as successful as you, but I did make a movie with Jeremy Renner, and you'll notice that he did not respond to that tweet.
It's like, oh man, Jeremy Renner, he's an Avenger. Shit, man.
I don't want to. Yeah, he probably was like, I don't want to drag that guy.
I just thought that was
this.
a huge dick move.
Well, I mean, the whole thing kind of is. But again, from my personal side,
to me, it'd be like one of these big time actors like Robert Downey Jr. talking shit to some guy who's making his way being an extra.
Yeah, some high school student who's in the
acting classes.
Yeah. It's weird.
Huge dick,
real
man.
Weird.
It's like you guys are all like, I want to be friends with this guy. Well, I don't. Fuck him. Okay, he's a dick.
Odin, he actually responded to you a few times too in that thread, right?
Yeah, no, he totally did, and it was kind of just interesting to witness a Hollywood, because actually it's technically not the first time that it's happened, oddly enough. I'm forgetting the last time that a verified person had interacted with me, but it was weird because I was going back and forth just trying to say, dude, like, you're so out of your element right now. The things you're saying are not true. You don't know who Matthew is. You're saying things that are driving people away, and he just wasn't getting it. And he went on like the next day Like, it wasn't even just that he spent all Sunday. He went into Monday still
Yeah.
responding to people. It was insane.
Yeah, that's what really kind of caught my eye. After a while, I just stopped responding because I was getting my notifications were blowing up, and I hate Twitter with a passion. The only reason I'm on it is to kind of promote the show and to kind of make friends with people that I kind of interact with often. And I'm like, at a certain point, I was like, okay, I'm done. I'm going to unplug from Twitter and I'm going to go do something else for a while. And at that point, I was like, how long? I'm like, I started doing the math. I'm like, this guy's been on Twitter on his phone for like upwards of 12 plus hours
has
now.
Has he been awake this whole time?
Yeah, did you go to sleep?
How many Red Bulls did you drink, buddy?
Couple extra Adderalls in the morning.
Okay?
And you know what's funny is like around that time when we were starting to check out in like mid-afternoon, so it was a slow news week, and this story kind of blew up. Right, like everyone started making videos about it, like just as faster than the speed of light. You know? and then we started getting invites to go on these live streams. And keep in mind that like we didn't plan any of this. We weren't like, I'm going to get the director of Indy 5 to reply to me. So like when we started getting these invites, like we'd been grinding since January, which
we've been actually asking people to like, hey, would you mind giving us a shout out? And they're like, no, thanks. And now they're calling us and being like, do you want to come on and like have me interview you?
They were like, how many subs do you have? What? No. so like we started YouTube
January.
Yeah, in January, but like we started in earnest. Like we had a YouTube channel for a couple of years and we just didn't do anything with it. But we started in earnest in January because that's when we finally figured out our video setup, you know. And so we were grinding hard. We got up to about 760 followers. We were trying to get to that 1,000 point so we can get monetized and we can actually start making money doing this podcast. And it was a really hard slog. We were grinding it out. We're like, hey, you know, we're patient, we're hardworking, we're eventually going to make it.
And it's a passion of love too, because I've always said, like, even if we never make any money with this is still what I would want to do with my Tuesday afternoons. Like I would want to hang out with you guys at a coffee shop or a bar and talk about movies.
We were doing this when we had 50 followers.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's not going to change. Like my whole thing, especially as principled as I am, like we talked about before, like my whole thing is I don't want our content to ever change. I want our content to be someplace where people can come to and escape consistently week by week. So we were putting out like what, 4 or 5 videos a week?
We were doing 7 videos.
7 videos a week, yeah.
Vader hated it.
No, I love it. What are you talking about?
You're like, I'm not watching one more thing this week.
Oh, dude.
I don't have time.
I don't have time. I gotta work.
We're like, Vader, can you watch this 9-episode series?
No,
Hell no.
I
don't have time to. I gotta go to work.
What, some woke ass Netflix show? No, I'm not doing that.
Well, we do. It's a passion of love. We have fun doing it. And when we're monetized, it's just going to be the icing on the cake.
And so like when we start getting all these invites onto much bigger channels than ours, we were like, yeah, let's do it.
Hell yeah.
And it wasn't.
Somebody private messaged me on Twitter and was like, can I interview you? And I was like, me?
Me?
I have like 80 Twitter followers.
and it was funny because like, you know, like we had been reaching out to bigger, you know, YouTube channels and been like, hey, do you want to collaborate? Do you want to do a live stream together? And, you know, some were cool and they were like, yeah, let's work together. And some were just like, you know, it's not really my thing.
Well, there are plenty of YouTube channels that we do like though.
Oh yeah.
We are friends with. We love going on their shows.
Yeah.
So.
And Odin is one of them.
Yes.
Shout out to Odin's movie blog.
Oh, thank you.
Well, Odin, you've been in my corner since the beginning.
Yeah,
back when I first published my first Last Jedi article. So
yeah. Odin's been
Dude,
cool.
and also, man, like when you said you had thick skin, all I could remember was the Kathleen Kennedy fight part 1.
Oh, man. Did you see
when that whole thing went down?
Did you see Jeremy actually admitted I was right 4 years later?
Yes, he did.
I'm gonna clip that. I'm gonna make like an hour-long video just of that being looped. But basically, like we were accused of, you know, doing clickbait in order to capitalize off of, you know, Indiana Jones 5 and misinformation. And once we start getting invited and going on these shows, it wasn't because, you know, our master plan was coming to fruition. It was because people were picking up on the story and they were asking us to come and tell our side of the story. And so that's what we did. And it just so happens that, you know, these people have big audiences and those audiences found us, you know, through the story. And now they're getting exposed to 400 some videos of our content, and they're liking what they're seeing.
Yeah. And that means a lot. We've been getting a ton of comments. We're like, oh my gosh, you guys' content is so fun. This is awesome. Yeah. You know, I came here because heel versus babyface,
drunk
or
3PO.
Yeah, or drunk 3PO or Geeks and Gamer. Like, I'm here because of this.
The quartering.
Your content's awesome. I'm so glad to find it. I'm like, dude, God damn it. That's awesome.
I was getting phone calls from people I hadn't talked to in years after that quartering video dropped. They're like, I saw you on the quartering, man.
I mean, I'm just happy I got like 20 new Twitter followers. So, you know, it's cool, whatever.
Yeah.
We're genuinely excited that we have so many more subscribers, and we're excited to make content for you, but we didn't go after this. I mean, Alex has been saying for 2 days, like, I'm really upset about how this happened.
Yeah. Okay. I have to put this out there.
I'm happy that it happened.
Yeah. I'm like, what I wanted to happen was one of our awesome videos or podcasts, whether we're talking about Jean-Claude Van Damme or whatever movie like Predator with Arnold Schwarzenegger, I wanted one of those videos to catch fire and people go, wow, this is a really cool podcast, and then get tons of followers. That would be my ideal situation. When I found out that we were getting followers because we got in a spat on Twitter with somebody, I was like, God damn it, man.
No, that's good.
I mean, I'm super happy. I'll take the win. It's awesome. I'm so glad that people can find us and support us. And I'm happy for all the channels that shouted us out. It's amazing. But I was just like, could have been different.
Sometimes it just takes a little bump.
Yeah.
And that's how all of these little YouTube channels get started, man. You got to find that thing. And honestly, you know, you disagree with me, but I could do this every week. I really want Matt to start pissing more people off. It's okay.
Well,
it's good.
Well, you know,
the Zack Snyder fans really hate it.
Oh yeah. They go after us hard.
Well, you know what's funny is, like, so I didn't set off, like, my tweet wasn't an attack. It wasn't directed at anyone. At the time I made it, I didn't know James Mangold was involved in the movie. And you know, like, I've been accused of attacking this film and of being ageist and of, you know, hating on a movie before I've even seen it. And Odin, maybe you can back me up on this. I don't believe that not seeing a movie is an excuse for not being able to criticize it in any way, shape, or form. Because to me, like, as a fan, there are two types of fans out there. There's the blind fans who will just take anything that the creators put in front of them and gobble it up and be like, this is fantastic, even though it's terrible. And
Falcon and Winter Soldier.
And then there are the type of fans, well, Star Wars. Yeah. Then there are the type of fans who actually genuinely love the material and want to protect it from mismanagement. And with the Lucasfilm track record thus far under Kathleen Kennedy, I don't have a lot of faith in their ability to handle a beloved franchise. And so, to me, like, any criticisms I direct at Indiana Jones, because it's one of my all-time favorite franchises, it comes from a genuine place of love, because I want it to be good, and I'm afraid it's not going to be. Yeah. And so, like, you can put out genuine constructive criticism, and you can highlight things that you think are going wrong, and still be a fan and still love the stuff. And so, like, this idea that how dare you criticize something that doesn't even exist yet? That was my biggest thing, where he's like, the movie doesn't exist yet. Well, to me,
what are you upset about?
Well, to me, like, it exists. It exists in the form of, like, a screenplay. It exists in the form of sets, of a cast, of, you know, scenes that are being shot. It may not be its completed form,
right?
But it does exist.
You know, we're seeing picture leaks of 100-year-old Harrison Ford. It looks like he pooped his pants in his indie outfit. It's crazy.
It's rough. So I think the best way to put it, I think
now Harrison Ford is going to come for us.
I know he's going to hate us. That guy would tell us to F off.
That would get us at least 10,000 new subs, so it's fine.
I think the best way to put it, we talked about it a little bit before, is those red flags. Like, yes, it's not finished yet, but there's some elements to this that are concerning. And that's, I think, the biggest thing for a lot of people that might agree with us. Like, you know what? Yeah, we do love indie, and we want it to see it to succeed. And I'm like,
also love Harrison Ford.
Yeah, we love Harrison Ford.
One of your kids after
I did. I named my second son Harrison after Harrison Ford, but I'm not a fan.
Nope, not a fan.
Not a fan at all. Anyway,
you're ageist.
I'm ageist.
And it's not ageist to say someone's age if it's accurate. Like,
Yeah.
this is a physical form of media and entertainment. You wouldn't, I mean, he can't play a high schooler. So why can't we talk about the fact that he's 78?
Hello, fellow
And-
kids.
Yeah. And,
Why
you know, we
can't
find
he play
it
a high
hard to
schooler?
believe that he's
Yeah.
an action star.
It's kind of goofy. But honestly, I think we've said it already. But like, if this does succeed, if Mangold pulls it off and it's a fantastic
No
Indiana
one will be
Jones movie,
happier than us.
we will shout it from the rooftops.
Absolutely.
Go see this movie. Support it. Go
well-
to the theaters.
I'll say, hey man, this movie's great, but the director's a dick. So,
But Odin, do you agree with my take on, like, you know, criticizing stuff that hasn't been made
Yeah.
yet?
Well, the greatest example of proving this correct is Sonic. Remember when that first trailer dropped, it got so much backlash from real fans.
Yep.
And what did they do? They delayed the film for months to fix it. So to say that we can't criticize something, even if there's just a trailer or just set photo leaks, is just ridiculous on its face. And then he would have to go after every single person that's ever done
right.
a trailer reaction video
Yeah.
ever in history.
Yeah.
Well, also, like, I look at it like this: like, if you own stock in a company and that company goes bad and the stock's about to tank, would you sell and recoup your money by seeing the signs, or would you wait for that stock to go to zero and try to sell then? Because that's kind of like what the argument is, where it's like, oh, you can't look into the future and make educated guesses over what's going to happen and try to, you know, protect yourself from that. You have to wait until the finished product is out there and then just accept whatever it is they give you. When I worked in the industry, the best projects that I saw that were able to manifest themselves came from conflict, where people were constantly forcing me as a director and as a writer to justify my decisions. And I wasn't right all the time. I know that's shocking for a lot of you guys.
What?
It was a very long time ago.
But pushback makes art better. And so when somebody is critical in a positive way, in a constructive way, it makes movies better. And one of the problems with, like, the Star Wars prequels and a lot of Steven Spielberg's older movies, or not older, but like newer movies, I should say, is that they got to such a point where they were, like, so established and so famous and so powerful that no one around them had the balls to tell them their ideas were bad.
Yeah.
And that's why we got the type of movies we got from them in the later end of their career.
Yeah.
It sounds very
Absolutely.
much like the Star Wars prequels.
Yeah. I mean, my favorite George Lucas quote of all time, and I've said this multiple times on the podcast, I may have gone too far in a few places.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
that's the quintessential, nobody told me no in this whole process.
And there's just this mentality that, like, fans aren't allowed to criticize franchises that are, like, beloved, and that's
Yeah.
bullshit.
Yeah.
I can criticize whatever I want.
Yeah.
I can say it's bullshit. I can say it sucks. We didn't, but I can do that if I want to.
And I think,
and still be a fan.
yeah.
Yes.
And I have to give Colin Trevorrow a shout out because
God,
this,
you
I
and your
love that dude.
dinosaurs,
I
dude.
love that dude. Okay, so he took over. Here's a perfect situation that Mangold is in a very similar situation as him. He took over the Jurassic Park franchise in the 4th film, Jurassic World. Okay, he's got Steven Spielberg at his back, but he wrote and directed that movie. He had the fans chomping at the bit, criticizing every little thing. I've watched this dude interact with people and myself in the most polite and classy way possible, even though they're shitting on his movie. And he'll go, hey, you know what? We understand that fans hold our feet to the fire. We love that passion. We understand it. We take it and we consider it when we're making our movie. And at the end of the day, if they don't like it, well, we tried our best. But if they do love it, we are so happy that they're here for us.
And I have so much respect for, like, creators who handle criticism and critiques that way, and just don't come out and say, well, you don't know what you're talking about. I'm definitely, we're not equals because I'm so much superior, therefore you don't know what you're talking about. Well, who are you making this for?
Well, you know what's interesting is that a lot of people in the industry, a lot of creatives just in general, whether it be writing or art or movie making or like whatever, they're very fragile. And a lot of people don't know how to take criticism well. And there are two types of artists out there. And they're the artists that are continually improving their work by filtering out the negative criticism from the positive criticism and incorporating the positive criticism, which is what I've always strived to do. Because even if I disagree with someone's critique, they may have a valid point that I need to be forced to look at. Then there are the people who, just filter out all criticism, and they just kind of like keep their head down and do what they do. A famous example of this is Benioff and Weiss with the Game of Thrones. They basically cut off all internet access. Like they didn't look at fan forums. They didn't listen to anything about the fans.
They didn't listen to George R.R. Martin.
Yeah, exactly. And they were like, we know best for our show, and we're just going to do what we want. And look how that turned out.
Yeah, we got season 8. All right, guys, we've been talking for over an hour about this. You guys want to have any final thoughts? Vader, what do you got for us, buddy? You want to say hi to the new people that
I
are
just
watching?
want to say hello to the new people. Thank you for subbing. We hope you enjoy our content that we're going to be putting out here for a while. Thank you.
Yeah.
You know, we know that you are here because of some nonsense, but we really hope you stick around and listen and enjoy what we do. We love doing it for you guys. You know, this is I love this, guys. I love this group. I love our fans. It's a great group of people. Odin, thank you for hanging out with us today.
Yeah.
You know,
Appreciate it, man.
I mean, I've been wanting to
Thank
talk to
y'all
you
for
for a
having me
while.
on.
So, yeah. So,
All right, Jude, you are going to do the honorary popping of the cork to add a new cork to Corky in the background there.
Corky.
Whoa! So we've decided to add a new guest to our podcast. It's going to be Corky, and we're going to pop open a bottle of wine to celebrate our over 700 subscribers on YouTube that just joined us.
Isn't it funny how the cork jar has become a meme?
Oh, it's amazing.
Like people in the Fandom Menace have been making these amazing images with like Corky and
yes, Corky the cork jar. Go ahead and add it. We'll have it on
I'm
video.
gonna take my headphones off.
All right, go ahead.
Are we doing an honorary entrance?
Yes, we'll cheers. We'll cheers it when she sits down again. But yeah, thank you guys again. Our 700 plus subscribers. We know you came here because of the Twitter drama, but we hope you stick around. Cheers, buddy. Cheers, Jude.
I thought you were gonna pour.
Oh, you didn't pour Jude a drink?
Oh, I suck.
You misogynist.
Matt, do you want one?
We're all gonna cheers. You're having a glass of wine. I'll drink it for you.
Here's Matt's.
Okay.
Here's Matt's.
Here you go, Matt.
Thank you, sir.
All right, well,
This is like going to communion. This is
This is a religious experience.
Yeah.
some chanting going on.
We
Give
should-
To the podcast.
we should
Here we go.
cheers the cameras.
To our new subs. Thank
Cheers
you
to the
to
new
everybody.
subs.
Cheers, you guys.
Can you hear me slurping?
Yep. Excellent.
You super slurpy.
All right, guys. SaltyNerdVideo.com. Subscribe, like. Check out our backlist of tons of videos that we did about all these great movies. And if you are so inclined, we do have a Patreon, saltynerdclub.com. Join the club. We have a bunch of behind-the-scenes stuff, behind-the-scenes footage, pictures of the Batman statue, blooper
He
reels.
also has an OnlyFans.
Yeah, the Batman statue has an OnlyFans. It's a bulletproof package.
Soon to be emphasized a little bit more.
Yeah, we're gonna decorate it.
Yep. And God, this is so goofy.
And we're doing a new thing with Twitter Spaces.
Yeah, this new thing. Let us know. Tweet at us or comment in the videos if you enjoyed having us do the podcast live, raw, unedited in Twitter Space. It's a new
Save
thing.
on a whole lot of editing if you like it.
We really do appreciate you guys showing up. Odin, thank you very much. Do you have any final thoughts for us, buddy?
No, just thank y'all very much for having me on, and congratulations. I just know for a fact it will not take very long for y'all to get those hours up and to get that monetization.
Oh, we already have the hours.
We've had our hours for months.
Oh, boom! There it is. There it is.
Odin, while we have you,
Congratulations.
is there anything that you want to plug for yourself or anywhere where you want to tell people where to find you?
Not really. Just make sure you sub to the Salty Nerd podcast if you're listening on
your
Twitter
best.
Spaces.
I will plug him because I've been a fan of his channel for a long
Absolutely.
time. Odin's movie blog on YouTube, but he also has a second channel. Odin, what's it called again?
It's the OMB Report, and
OMB
I've
Report.
kind of fallen behind, so I'm doing live streams now on Thursday mornings to take care of the OMB Report channel.
Well, I also sub to the OMB Report, and it's great to hear Odin's kind of take on things because he's very level-headed, very smart guy.
You only say that because he likes you.
Oh, thank you.
That shows how smart he is.
I appreciate Odin because he's another bald bearded guy.
There you
like
go.
Me.
Yes.
We got to start a club or
I
something.
love that in a man.
Hail the All-Father.
Yeah, but
Hail Salty Nerd podcast.
Odin puts out a lot of great content, and his channels deserve to be highlighted. And he's also on Gary's, was it Friday Night Tights?
Yes,
Yeah.
Friday night sites. We have a lot of fun.
Right on. All right, guys.
Hopefully one day we can get on there.
Maybe someday. Now would be the time.
We gotta schmooze with Gary when he comes out for Star Trek convention.
Oh yeah, that's another thing. If you guys are listening, we're in the process of getting 2 booths now.
Yeah,
we got buy one get one free somehow. We got 2 booths at the Star Trek convention. I have a feeling
the vendor hall is going to be very sparse this year.
We called and to set everything up, and the lady was like, "Okay, so you guys got 2 tables," and you're like, "Wait, what?"
We were like, "Whoa, we only want to pay for one."
Yeah.
She was like, "Don't worry about it, you are."
Yeah, you get 2 for 1 this year. I'm like, oh, I would have rather taken a half-price discount.
But anyway, we're going to be at the Star Trek convention. So if you guys happen to be coming out with Gary or to meet up any of the other big YouTubers,
you know what we should do? We should do a Twitter Spaces the entire time we're at the.
Oh yeah,
that is a great
absolutely.
idea. Yep, live at Star Trek convention. That's a perfect idea. I think we're going to do that.
It's going to happen.
Thank you, James Mangold.
Thank you, James Mangold.
Stay classy.
Stay salty.
And you can find Matt Vader 74.
Oh, that's
at
right.
Matt Vader
We gotta do
74
that.
on the socials.
I'm sorry, Jude. I totally forgot our normal outro. Matt, where can they find you on the socials?
Wow. You can find me at Matt Vader 74 on the socials, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube.
Right on.
Here.
Jude?
You can find me at I am Juju on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok.
And Matthew Kadish.
You can find me at Matthew Kadish, Kadish, for the most influential Twitter account in Hollywood. And kadishbooks.com takes you to my Amazon page.
And I am Alex, the Salty Nerd. You can catch me on Twitter at salty_nerd. And as always, stay salty, my friends. There we go. I got it right that time.